All right, good afternoon. I call to order the Lynchburg Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, November 8th, 2017. Thank you all for coming. The first order of business is the approval of two sets of minutes, September 27th and October 11th, 2017. Any additions or corrections to those minutes?
They've been made, I think.
Yes. Yeah, there was some that were fixed. All right, a motion to approve.
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, they are both approved. Thank you. The next order of business is the following public hearing item. Petition of James River Day School, Lynchburg Day School Incorporated for conditional use permit in an R1 low-density residential district at 5039 Boonesboro Road to allow the expansion and improvements to athletic fields. Rachel, I assume you are discussing this.
As you stated, James River Day School is located at 5039 Boonesboro Road, and they're petitioning for a CUP to allow widening of the existing athletic field, resulting in the ability to have two smaller practice fields. The comprehensive plan recommends an institutional use on our future land use map. Schools and their associated uses are permitted in R1 low-density residential districts via CUP issued by City Council. This is the proposed concept plan. As you can see, it's not too substantially different from what they have there now. They have the one athletic practice field, and they want to expand to create two smaller practice fields. A variance was approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals on September 27th to allow the recreational field 36 feet from the property line instead of the required 200 feet with the conditions outlined in your packet. The Planning Division does recommend approval of this petition.
Great, thank you. Who is here to speak on behalf of this petition? Come forward and sign in, state your name, and I'll be happy.
I'm speaking on behalf of James River Day School. Well, I just wanted to give you a couple brief comments about what they're planning on doing. Essentially, it's just an expansion of the existing field to create a larger competition field and at the same time create two smaller practice fields that would allow the kids to practice, like two separate teams to practice simultaneously. So I think they're labeled on there as a practice field A and practice field B. Practice field B being a little bit smaller, and that's really just based on the topography of the lot. You're getting into a hillside on the northwest corner of the lot. So as you are probably aware, the existing field is already in that nuisance buffer that is required. It's a 200-foot buffer from a residential area. The field is already in that buffer and is already under an existing variance for it that was, I guess, created or obtained when the field was constructed. So we're not really changing anything. We're just, in terms of it being in the buffer, we're just making it a little bit closer to the property lines. In the process of doing all this, the school has been in communication with the neighbors, Mr. Norton and Mr. Hubbard, as well as the fellow across the street, Bonton Circle. And in fact, they were in attendance or represented at the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting that we had for the variance. And they had some, minor concerns, which we have addressed, and were I think I saw in your reports, there were some conditions that came out of the variance that we would have to adhere to One is putting a fence in on Mr. Hubbard's property, sort of discourage kids that occasionally roam through the woods there from going onto his property. Another is some screening of the field and any stormwater management facility that we would have to construct as part of the project. So, I mean, they have contacted the neighbors. They seem to be in favor. I'm not going to speak on behalf of them, of course, but we did, from the original concept to now, we have changed it to address their concerns. And I'll leave it at that. And if you have any questions, just let me know, and we'll try to answer it. Mr. Pete York is here, representing the school as well.
Great, thank you. And you can probably just stay here
All right.
for questions. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this petition or against this petition? All right, public hearing is closed. Feel free to ask questions to Rachel or Mr. Beasley. I always just have one clarification for my mind. Whenever something's zoned institutional, this is coming, I know they're given some leeway. This is coming before us because it exceeds a certain,
James River Day School has actually not pursued the institutional zoning as of yet, at least. I don't know if that's in the works for them. But they're currently operating under a series of conditional use permits that council granted starting in the 80s and most recently as last year. So it's a residential zone, but schools, churches, other similar institutions are allowed to operate in those zones via conditional use permit. And when they're expanded, they need to come back for a conditional use permit.
I see, all right, I misread it. The institutionals for the comp plan.
That's the flume, yep.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Really, the only thing I can think of is, just to be sure of this particular area, and looking at the concept you had up earlier, there's a jurisdictional, the dark gray area. And it looks like, being out there yesterday, that's all around that retention area at the end of the field or whatever that is. Is what you were calling proposed drainage, is that in addition to what's there?
Yes, it's hard to see, but at the very top of the screen there,
Right.
Even above where, that's the proposed, there
Right.
you go. So, see where it says existing stormwater detention? That's where the pond is now that was just constructed as part of the improvements that they did on the building
Okay.
addition.
Okay.
That wetland is further to the west in a low area. It's we had it mapped and located, and we're in the process of going through the permitting with the Corps.
Okay.
But the proposed stormwater management would take care of any additional drainage runoff. Yeah.
That just, having played down there and, that area could turn into a swamp in a heartbeat. I know you guys have done a lot of stuff to get that through, but just from the standpoint of maintaining, whatever serious water flows under there, I wasn't sure what you guys had put in place. I just wanted to understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, we, that area would be filled in, and the drainage that comes to that area would be routed around the fields and into the stormwater management basin, so.
Any other questions? Comments? I mean, it seems pretty straightforward and reasonable to me. They've covered all their bases. I appreciated the narrative that was added, a nice summary of everything, so it's good.
Thanks.
All right, do we have a motion?
Make the motion, we approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we are recommending approval to council. So good luck with them and good luck with the project if they
All right.
approve it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate your time.
Any other items for discussion? I was asked to let you all know that getting new iPads is in the works. And there's a question as to what size we might want. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the trade-off. So this would be what we have now, obviously, it's an iPad 2, something similar to that. It won't be any bigger than this. It could be, what do you have, Mark? Is that a
This is a Samsung.
Samsung? But, it's
I think
okay.
it's a 9-inch.
Yeah, but if that's big enough, we could certainly provide that data to the requester. Or if we want something this big, we can say that.
I like the slightly bigger one.
I like slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Well,
So s-
bigger is
Only
better.
I got this was.
So
good.
stick with what we have is the message then.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully those will be here soon. I'll pass that info on.
Great, yeah. It's a matter of trying to find the money. So the consensus is at least as big as what you have now.
Yes.
You want to keep that. And then
Yeah.
no one's having any issues with like the size as far as storage on it or anything like that. It's just performance and,
No, because everything we deal with is done
right.
through Dropbox.
Okay,
So I don't think that's a problem at all.
okay.
One problem I have with the current is not having enough to hold down the papers it's being used for right now. So one that'll work would be nice.
So you want a heavier one?
Yeah. I'll
Got
tell you
it.
what.
Just
Okay.
one that works.
Yeah, we'll get you a real old one.
You can have all
I'm
of
sure they're
our-
heavier.
We'll give you all.
We can have all of ours,
Yeah, I know.
and then it'll be heavy enough.
Stack them.
So.
Do you prefer the Apple brand, or are there any other brands out there that you'd be interested
It doesn't
I am
matter
not
to
an
me.
Apple fan.
in? Right.
You are an Apple fan?
I am
No.
not.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Maybe we can save the city some money.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, we were wondering if another reader device would work.
I mean, I've been using this Tab E or whatever my daughter got me, and it works just fine. And I don't have any problems.
Yep, I'm fine with whatever, too.
Okay,
So,
we'll see what IT is comfortable supporting. I know they tend to go Apple, but,
yeah, and
We can pass that
I'm
along.
fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with the Apple.
okay.
It's whatever. I know that's what other folks are using. Sometimes it's easier to be consistent, but I'm fine with whatever you come up with.
Black Friday's right around the corner.
That's
I
right.
take and run down to Best
Are you
Buy,
volunteering
Yeah.
to stand out in the cold?
Yeah, 12:01
I
a.m.
have done something dumb like that before.
Be there when it opens. All right. Any other items for discussion? All right, well, great. Our next regular meeting is December 13th. So I'm not sure if we had one scheduled the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, but we don't have
We
one.
canceled that
Yeah.
a couple of years ago
Yeah.
because it's never gonna happen.
No,
We
no.
would, we would say, oh, we'll keep it on there and,
No, you can
No.
schedule it, but
yeah. But then everybody would be out
But,
of town,
yeah.
so.
it is nice to note that it is
Yeah.
officially not ever
It's,
there,
we're officially not ever gonna have a second meeting in November.
which is good.
So
And
go
it-
ahead,
Or
take that.
December for that.
And it
for
sounds
that
like
matter.
the amount of work we're dealing with
Yeah.
is a good time anyway, too.
I mean, I suppose if there was ever like an emergency, like somebody had to get something through, you know,
Mhm.
that, but for the record, it's not gonna.
Are there things coming up for the 13th?
Is that one for sure coming?
I think there are a couple.
We've got some townhomes coming up. Can't remember anything else. You said there's a
You're
couple.
working on the new tier features.
I don't know if those will make it to December. Yeah, I guess they might. I got a couple public hearings that were just submitted yesterday. I'm not sure if those make it to your December meeting or not. They
Oh.
probably do.
You'll have to wait in suspense.
Yeah. It was
Is it
like, one
secret?
was for a hotel, I remember that one, and one was for,
Didn't we just hear one for a hotel?
uh-huh.
Murray Place.
This one's on, Border Street. Do you know where that is?
What street?
Border,
Border
which is,
Street.
oh, I know, it's the old, Billy Joe's.
Oh.
And Chuck E. Cheese's.
Oh, right.
Before that.
They're gonna do what with a
A
hotel there?
hotel. And then there was something else,
So how are people gonna get to it without driving through another hotel's parking lot?
It's a street.
Oh, there's access,
Yeah,
there's a
it's
street.
It's a
It's
public
very
road.
confusing.
Yeah, it's
Very
confusing,
confused about used to
which is
carry-
part of the reason why the other businesses didn't do well there, I'm sure. But it's also not a bad location for one either, so.
Hey, we make hotel number 19 over there.
The funny thing is, though, they fill up.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
family coming for graduation had a heck of a time finding a room.
That's what I'm thinking. It would make more sense to do like mail-ins and just have like a roll-up that you could do during graduation weekends. And then take and swell up those vessels. I mean, I can't figure out.
What's that, how they get full?
I can't figure out how, I mean, I guess you could take the criteria model of only having, 10 rooms.
Right.
But short of that, I can't see that you could fill up what we've got other than graduation week.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just special events, but still, I mean, we had a call, like, and that wasn't even Liberty's graduation weekend. I was having them come in for Lynchburg College's graduation.
But yeah, but you're
And,
talking about-
I had a call, like, in the fall, someone saying, when's that new hotel gonna be built? The Residence Inn at the mall, and I'm like, I don't know why, and because we can't find a room, and this was in like October, and they couldn't find a
I
room.
wouldn't be surprised if they were calling a year or 2 years ahead.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's what we did for my son's graduation right after I was on the waiting list I went and made my reservation right after the graduation, a year ahead of him. And they still lost my reservation.
I have a question. Is there any way to track the things that we've heard to see what has happened with them? Is there any way to know? Like, we hear a
You
lot
mean
of things that
nothing?
come through and then nothing ever happens. And I'm
Yeah.
just kind of curious about, like,
I mean,
are
with
these things-
council or beyond council?
Even beyond where we are, like, where did it go in council?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of the townhomes on Wards Ferry Road, which got approved by the council too.
I'm gonna tell
But-
you what I did one time, but I no longer have, I really don't find that I have the time anymore. I had a planning commissioner leave, and I made him a book of every petition that he had ever heard. Because it was, and he almost cried, because it was like, it was exactly like that, like he'd been on there 9 years. So I said, wouldn't that be cool if you got to see what all the things happened? And I think I had time to do it for maybe one more, but it was a real time-consuming project. I actually put a picture in of what had been built, and so I'm not bragging on myself. I'm just saying I understand what you mean. It's kind of interesting to see whether they ever actually happen, and then what they look like and stuff like that. I could, I can't say I'll ever have time to pick it up on that level, but maybe I could do something.
Well, I
more
go
like
in,
a
I'll
spreadsheet.
go into council's minutes and read what they decide
Yeah, what they
on
decide.
for our bigger items, but down the road, I mean, we've had stuff that's been approved by council 4 years ago and nothing's been
And
touched.
nothing's happened.
And there's
James Memorial
there's no way to
Library's
track
still
that.
vacant.
I mean, they have
Yeah.
permission, but as long as they're the owner, they can sit on as long as they want.
Yeah.
I was thinking
right.
about that too, and
Yeah.
because I was out off
Still
of
there,
Grayson
still
Road, and
there.
I was thinking,
But they broke ground
what's
on
gonna happen
top
with
of
that
it.
road out there?
Oh,
They've started breaking ground on the, on those
On the
apartments up
apartments,
by.
yeah.
Humane
11:25.
Yeah, I saw that.
Those two,
You
that
know,
type
and
of
it-
building.
Matter of
What's
fact,
very,
the
very
good news is
easy to
the
decide
traffic
when
was
you
better
have
than what I remembered. I don't know why, but it was. But if they
I didn't,
throw
I don't
in,
know, I haven't seen it.
that whole development at the same time, but they haven't moved much on.
But there is a spreadsheet out there that does say the date that the items come before us, and then the date that same item would come before council, so that you could see.
Is that on our
Uh,
website? I mean, it's on.
We were given,
That's probably the TRC schedule, if that's what you're
Um,
referring to.
so I'm not sure, but we used to be given that.
Are you talking about just the deadlines of when things go?
All I know, it
I'm
was,
not familiar with.
it was pretty easy to see when the items that were up in front of us were being presented to council, because we had the 2 rows of dates for the whole year, and you could
Yeah.
sort of track.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's.
And so if you were,
That's-
if you were interested in a particular item, you could just glance at that calendar and see,
Yeah,
assuming
but
they're
I
not
think-
postponing it, here's when it's gonna go to council, instead of having to look at their agenda every time and see
Yeah.
what's coming up.
But I think you're talking about, you'd like to know what happens after council approves them and kind of keep track
Because
of,
some of that gets, then goes into a process and you can track it.
right.
And then, I think of like the Kraft automotive lot, and then all of a sudden it dies for a while, and it just sits
Right.
there, and you'll see documents where they're in process, and then they stop. And
Right.
sometimes they're actually things that have been stopped for a year, you think, and you look and there's new documents that were just posted, because it's all public record.
Now, one thing that, if you really would like to track like if you have a particular one in mind, you could always go to Parcel Viewer and under E-Track it, yeah. That would be a
I
way to,
didn't know that.
yeah, if you go to Parcel Viewer and look up any parcel, you click on this link that says View Parcel and E-Track it, it'll show you every permit, project,
Site plan,
rezoning.
subdivisions.
I didn't know
It's
that.
pretty cool.
That is
It's-
pretty
It'll at least give you a little synopsis of what all has happened on that property.
Now, once we hear it, and then it goes through city council and passes, and once they start doing stuff, they come back and work with you all, right? So they're always in the,
Yeah, then their
In that-
next step is usually a site plan,
yeah.
and then, now if it's just like changing the use of the building, we might
Right,
not see a
that's not a-
site plan,
right.
but it'll,
Mhm.
Right, and then for some projects, we don't even know what happens. I mean, for,
Yeah.
financial reasons or, something,
Just
some
kind
So
of
the Campbell Avenue,
circumstance.
the little Campbell Avenue building.
Yeah, some
whatever happened with
circumstance
that.
changes and the project falls through and.
they actually had a big kind of a delay because of the sidewalk issue there, but I think they're trying to finalize their site plan for that, the one on Campbell Avenue.
Mhm.
But it, with the sidewalk, I think that kind of helped out. for a
Probably the
while.
biggest delay that I can remember since I've been on the commission is with the plans for the Jones Library. I think Dave and I, maybe Mark was on the board at the
That's one
time.
of the first ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, been very
It's a shame,
frustrating
'cause
that
it's
we
such a
haven't
pretty
seen that
building.
project go
It's
forward.
so- It'd be such a cool event
Yeah.
space, but,
Because people ask you, I do get a lot of questions,
Phelps
people
Road's
that
cool,
will,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
say, well, what's going on with this building? I know you approved that, what's going on with this building? And
Yeah.
it's sort of, I
and
mean,
sometimes we don't know, we
Yeah.
just have to assume they don't have the finances
Yeah.
or,
yeah.
Are we gonna get change the subject abruptly, but not that far? Are we gonna get a pre-shot at the downtown master plan, or will that be presented to council first?
I'm not sure where planning commission falls in the schedule right now. We do have a public workshop scheduled. Don't have the date finalized, but we're looking at January, so
Oh, okay.
just to give you.
I just wasn't sure, I really didn't have an ulterior motive, I just really didn't know.
Yeah, I think we get a review of it.
Yeah,
The
there'll be
planning
Yeah.
a
commission,
workshop,
yeah.
and then planning commission will probably
Yeah.
get a presentation as well.
So,
And then.
You have to recommend
Yeah,
approval, so of course you
exactly.
get a stab at it.
so,
And Seaside Tactical we approved, that's now.
Yeah, that happened, yeah.
yeah, I know, I was at a meeting earlier today, and Ashley Kirshner from downtown Lynchburg was there, and sort of brought us up to speed as to where things were from downtown Lynchburg's perspective, as far as the master plan was concerned. And of course, the big issue was, that came up in the discussion was, what about two-way traffic on Main Street? And, that's a long discussion, but I guarantee you, if you all haven't heard anything from anybody about two-way traffic on Main Street, as this plan forms up, because I've gotten a half dozen calls about it, and I guarantee everybody in this commission will probably get, if you know any merchants downtown, you're gonna hear about it.
Outside of that,
Pardon?
I said two-way will be in it.
Yeah, so.
Okay. All right, any other items for discussion? All right. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.